We have a great actually story about technology in the classroom. When the iPads very first came out and they were really touting them for education, um, it was cutting edge. We were one of the first schools. There were two schools that year. I believe one was in Reynoldsburg maybe, and we were the other one, who went to a one-to-one iPad policy for our kids. And so we checked out the iPad to our kids. They took it home. They had it with them for 24/7. And we did that for a few years, and we were able to kind of monitor what was happening. And we thought that if they had access to things like the library online, where they could check out books, that they would read more, they'd be at their fingertips. But we found that their test scores weren't getting any better for having the technology in their hands. As a matter of fact, their reading comprehension scores were going down on their comprehension test on books that they read on the tablet. So we noted that, and we thought that was a little bit odd. When they were taking notes on the tablet, their test scores in like history and science weren't as good as they had been before we introduced the iPad. They started to get surlier with one another. So whereas before when they were passing in the hallways, they had a 5-minute passing period, I mean, they would scoot in under the bell because they were socializing out in the hall. But with the iPads, they would get in your class in the first minute because then they had 4 minutes to do whatever they wanted on there before the bell rang and they had to sit down. And so when their head's in their iPad, they're not with each other. And so they became less relational. When they became less relational, the attitudes actually worsened, behavior worsened. So that was interesting, and that's why initially we pulled back, and we put the iPads back into the classroom and said you can't have them at home. They would go home and sleep with it next to them and not get their sleep because their chat rooms would be going off all night long, and they would wake up to respond, which is crazy. So, it took a couple years to kind of see that behavior develop, but as soon as we saw it, we pulled back. So we brought the iPads back into the classroom, and the first year that we did that, it was amazing. Because again, immediately in the hallways, they went back to talking to each other. They smiled more, they weren't as short-tempered, they weren't as impatient with one another. So that was really eye-opening for us. So we got to see that firsthand, the benefits. And then the research started coming out, because it takes 5 years to affect change and to get a research study up and going, to get your result from start to finish and your results. And what they have found is that reading online, your brain doesn't comprehend it as well. It doesn't take it in. You don't remember it as well as you do paper and pencil. There's a connection between your senses, tactily feeling a book. Your brain actually puts things into chronological order through the turning of the pages, which is kind of a cool thing. So we took back that they couldn't have Kindles and they couldn't do iBooks anymore. When they went back to regular old-fashioned books that they hold in their hands, those AR test scores went back up, which was interesting. When we pulled back and said they could no longer take notes on the iPad or on the laptop, their test scores went up.